the chapter we left off with the other day, Draco's Detour, where Harry, Ron, and Hermione leave Fred and George's shop and follow Draco and his parents, or father at least, into Borgin and Burke's, simply because there's not a whole lot that goes on there, other than that they see him go in and they wonder what it is he's trying to get. Okay? So I want to pick up with chapter 7, the Slug Club. And we're probably not going to spend a whole lot of time on this either. I'm going to try to get us up to today either to or through chapter 18, birthday surprises. But there's probably going to be some roadblocks on the way. So, the Slug Club. What is it? Louder, somebody.
Mr. Slughorn's collection of like prodigy students that he is eventually going to elevate to the world so he can get a benefit out of it, I guess.
Okay. Louder. Influential and oppressive students. Are they really influential though? How influential is Ginny Weasley? I mean, really. Okay. But impressive. Impressive how?
Skills or family?
Potential.
Okay, skills or family or potential. In other words, he's doing what every employment counselor will tell you to do if you go to the employment counseling office on MTSU. Network. He's networking. He's figuring out who is going to be important, not now, not at Hogwarts this year, but in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. Who are going to be the people to know, okay, for Slughorn? Why is he doing this? I mean, he's been around the block a long time. He's old. So what benefit does he get out of it?
He thinks he has influence.
Okay,
It helps his ego.
it strokes his ego. He thinks he has influence because, after all, if you become, to use a phrase, the kingmaker, what does that mean you have over the king? Influence, pull, power. So if he can mold these students, okay, in a certain way, what can he then expect from them in the future?
Favors.
Favors. Favors. Essentially political favors, whether or not they're working with the Ministry of Magic. Okay? So, who are, therapy yesterday was an inch. Who are some of the people in the Slug Club?
Harry.
Is Harry really?
Not really, I guess.
He wants him to be. Okay, so he invites Harry. Why?
Chosen one, beautiful.
I mean, this is the crowning glory. If you can get the boy who lived into your little influential group, who else? Is Hermione in it?
No.
Not at first.
Not at first. Okay. Who is at first? On the train, let's say. Why Neville? Bingo. His parents. His parents were famous aurors. Is Neville seemingly going to be a famous auror? No. But what does Neville also have going for him now? That's not his parents.
He was identified.
He was at the Ministry of Magic. He was one of 6 students taking on the Death Eaters. So what does that do for Neville's public persona? Is he the bumbling idiot he was his first year? Nope. He's still pretty bumbling. Okay. Who else? I already mentioned her. Why Jenny?
She did an impressive hex.
She's pretty darn good when it comes to hexes. Okay?
She looks like Harry's mom.
She does look a little like Harry's mom. Long red hair. Harry's mom had long red hair. She doesn't have almond-shaped eyes, though. Nobody has those eyes but Harry. Okay. McLagan, or, yeah, I don't even remember how to spell his name. Is it L-A-G-G? I didn't know if it had another C. Okay. What's he there for?
His dad's in the ministry.
Dad's in the ministry. He's rich. What else does he have going for him? Think Hollywood. Good looks. If he were still alive, Cedric would be here. Why? He's got the whole package, so to speak. Okay? And then, there are a few others. Who doesn't want to be there, really? Well, Harry doesn't. Neville does. I mean, Neville's thinking he can, make friends here. Isn't Luna? No? Okay. Something was going on in my mind.
I don't think even half of them wanted to be there.
Who?
I don't think even half of them wanted to be there.
Not really. I mean, you've got others mentioned. Let's see here. I keep forgetting to write in transfer all my notes to one of the American editions. It's 129 plus 5. So somewhere around 149, 150. Zabini is there. Okay. Belby from Ravenclaw. Longbottom. Potter. The Weasley girl. Who's speaking? 148. Or right around there. Malfoy. So how are we hearing Malfoy?
Harry's got his invisibility.
Harry got his invisibility cloak on and he snuck into Malfoy's compartment. Climbed up onto the luggage rack, has it over there, has it over him, so he's invisible. So he's listening to all of this. He hears what Malfoy says about him and such. And just before they exit the train, 154 or so, maybe 153. Harry peers down over the edge of the luggage rack, his heart pumping a little faster. What had Malfoy wanted to hide from Pansy? Was he about to see the mysterious broken object it was so important to mend? The thing that Harry was watching Malfoy about in Borgin and Burke's? And suddenly, Petrificus Totalis. Without warning, Malfoy pointed his wand at Harry, who was instantly paralyzed. What does Harry still have on? We're told at one point about invisibility cloaks that they can do what? Yeah. They can shield you from charms. Faulty, take this one back to the manufacturer. What?
One of the more impressive ones.
It's not one of the more impressive ones. This is the most impressive one. Okay? It's like this is the ideal invisibility cloak that all other invisibility cloaks are modeled after. So, Harry was instantly paralyzed. As though in slow motion, he toppled out of the luggage rack and fell with an agonizing, floor-shaking crash at Malfoy's feet. Why does he fall? Is he leaning over off the luggage rack? He's lying flat on it. So why does he fall? If it's Petrificus Totalis, what happens to you?
You're just paralyzed.
So why doesn't he stay where he is?
I thought some of the earlier usage of it, everybody stood straight up and snapped together.
Yeah, but they're standing. So if you're standing and you don't have any way to balance yourself, you're going to fall. But he's lying down. So shouldn't he just fall flat lying down on what he is? Unless he's somehow hanging over the edge.
I mean, if the rack wasn't that big, he could be curled up in a fetal position. Like
Yeah,
he
he
snaps
said he
up.
was.
Could be it's a little tiny rack. Okay? But it's where they normally stick things like it's where Harry normally puts what? His trunk. His trunk. This isn't like a little, overnight suitcase. A trunk is generally at least half the length of this table. Okay? Maybe as wide or a little bit wider, and a good minimum foot deep. So the rack's got to be at least big enough to carry how many of those? How many people are normally in a compartment? 4? So a rack on each side to carry 2? That's more than big enough for Harry, because he's not that big. Not Daniel Radcliffe, I mean the real Harry. Definitely big enough for Daniel Radcliffe. He wouldn't even go head to toe on that table. Okay? So he falls. Now, bear in mind, nobody else is in the compartment at this point other than Malfoy. The invisibility cloak trapped beneath him, its whole body revealed with his legs, still curled. How do invisibility cloaks work? Do you have to have them over your head in order to be invisible? Can you wear it just around your shoulders?
Yes,
Did they
because he proved it when he first got it.
Yeah, right. He put it around his shoulders and they
his
can
head
almost
was
see his
so
head.
visible.
Okay.
And his ankles were visible as well when he hopped on.
So how does he reveal himself to Malfoy in the 3rd book when he's at Hogsmeade?
Just his floating head.
Okay, yeah. I thought so, said Malfoy. I heard Goyle's trunk hit you. And I thought I saw something white flash through the air after Zabini came back. That was you blocking the door when Zabini came back in, I suppose. Notice Harry can't answer because he's frozen. You didn't hear anything I care about, Potter. But while I've got you here, and we see the real Draco Malfoy. He stamped hard on Harry's face. Notice it's not just a, which would be enough to break a nose. It's, it's Nazi boot on the face of a Jew, kind of a stamping the foot down. That's from my father. Now, let's see. Why? Why is it from his father? Why isn't it from Draco himself? Yeah, Daddy's in Azkaban. Malfoy dragged the cloak out from under Harry's immobilized body and threw it over him. Smart move on Draco's part?
I would just take the cloak.
Yeah, take the cloak. You think Draco has his own invisibility cloak? I wouldn't think so. You think it would be something Draco would want? Especially given what he has to do this year, his additional studies, let's say. I don't reckon they'll find you till the train's back in London. See you around, Potter, or not. In taking care to tread on Harry's fingers, he leaves. Chapter 8, Snape victorious. Harry just lay there, feeling the blood from his nose flow, hot and wet, over his face. His immediate thought was, surely someone's going to check the compartments. Surely, as I said the other day, you should stop using that word when it comes to the Harry Potter novels. Okay? Ron and Hermione would think he'd left the train without them. He's trying to make a sound, but he can't. How long does Petrificus Totalis last? We're never told, really. But this one apparently lasts quite a while. He thinks he hears the rustling of the trees surrounding the lake, hoot of an owl. Train starts to move. He's thinking, damn. And Tonks shows up. She takes Harry out. Who did it? Whatever page that is. 157 or so. 162 or so. Draco. Thanks for, no problem. I can fix your nose. Harry did not think much of this idea. He'd been intending to visit Madame Pomfrey, the matron, in whom he had a little more confidence when it came to healing spells. So, Tonks fixes his nose. Why? What's his last experience of somebody other than Madame Pomfrey fixing something on Harry? Yeah, his arm goes all wobbly. His nose feels hot, then cold, and it's fixed. You better put that cloak back on. We can walk up to the school, says Tonks. Okay. She sends a Patronus out, telling Dumbledore, I've got you. How did you know I wasn't already off the train? I noticed you hadn't left the train, and I knew you had that cloak. I thought you might be hiding for some reason. When I saw the blinds were drawn down on that compartment, thought I'd check. Why are you here? Station in Hogsmeade, she says. Okay. So they trudge up the dark, deserted lane, following the freshly made carriage tracks. Harry notices, she's not as inquisitive and asking questions or so as she did the last year. Next page, she and Harry meet up with Snape. Harry tries to get through the gates using the Alohomora charm. Doesn't work. Tonks says, Dumbledore bewitched them. Harry, I could climb a wall. No, you couldn't. Security's tightened. Anti-intruder jinxes. Harry, well, then I'm just going to have to sleep out here. No, someone's coming down for you. And it's Snape. Okay? Snape looks at Harry and says, what? You haven't changed from the beginning of the school year. What's Harry already thinking Snape is thinking? Points. Couldn't change. Didn't have my... So, Tonks leaves Harry there in Snape's hands. And she says goodbye. Snape doesn't speak for a minute. They're walking on. And we're told at the end of the somewhat long paragraph, around 160 or so, whatever Dumbledore said, Harry had time to think over the summer and had concluded that Snape's snide remarks to Sirius about remaining safely hidden while the rest of the Order of the Phoenix were fighting Voldemort had probably been a powerful factor in Sirius rushing off to the Ministry the night that he had died. What is Harry doing in his mind?
Rationalizing a way to blame Snape.
Exactly. Harry clung to this notion. Why? Because it enabled him to blame Snape, which felt satisfying. Also, because he knew if anyone was not sorry that Sirius was dead, it was Snape. If he's trying to find a way to blame Snape, why is he doing that? Who's he not blaming? Himself. Let's see, 50 points from Gryffindor, I think, for lateness. 20 points for your muggle attire. I don't believe any house has ever been in negative figures this early in the term. We haven't even started pudding. You might have set a record, Potter. The fury and hatred bubbling inside Harry seemed to blaze white hot. But he would rather have been immobilized all the way back to London than tell Snape why he was late. And yet, what does Harry know about Snape? Louder. Okay, what else? Does Harry need to tell Snape about why he was late? Why not? Because Snape's a Legilimens, or however you want to pronounce it, or a Legilimens. And in fact, he's one of the best that there is. If he wants to know why Harry was late, is it really going to be that hard for him? And does he have to have a wand and go, Legilimency? No. Because what is Snape also a master at? No. Nonverbal spells. Okay. So, Harry goes on up. He sees Ron, Hermione, and we get the beginning of the year announcements. Dumbledore welcomes Horace Slughorn to be what teacher? What do they usually have an opening for every year? Defense against the Dark Arts? But he's not going to be the defense against the dark arts. He's potions master. Who gets defense against the dark arts? Snape victorious. Why victorious? Finally. This is the job he's been applying for how long?
40.
This is his 16th year there. This is the 16th year he's asked for this job. How do we know that? Because in the previous book, Umbridge asked him how long he's been there. He tells her, and you've applied for defense against the dark arts every year. So notice, Lockhart instead of Snape. Quirrell instead of Snape. So, Dumbledore continues the beginning of the year speech and says somewhere around 167, talking about how dangerous this year is because of Voldemort being back, gaining in strength. Middle of that page, hopefully it's the middle of the page, somewhere on there, it's the longest paragraph. I cannot emphasize strongly enough how dangerous the present situation is, and how much care each of us at Hogwarts must take to ensure that we remain safe. The castle's magical fortifications have been strengthened over the summer. We are protected in new and more powerful ways, but we must still guard scrupulously against carelessness on the part of any student or member of staff. Now, if they were still there, who would Dumbledore probably look at this point? Fred and George. Yeah, definitely. I urge you, therefore, to abide by any security restrictions that your teachers might impose upon you, however irksome you might find them. Who's he probably thinking of more than anybody else? Harry. In particular, the rule that you are not to be out of bed after hours. I implore you, should you notice anything strange or suspicious within or outside the castle, report it immediately. Okay? So, Harry tells Ron and Hermione what he overheard from Malfoy, and we go on to chapter 9, the Half-Blood Prince, titled, second half of the title of the book. Right? So we see McGonagall going over schedules with students. And Harry, Ron, and Hermione are talking. You know, they're not going to take care of magical creatures. They're hoping Hagrid won't be too upset with them. Okay? They're getting ready for their newts. They've passed their owls. Well, most of them have passed their owls. Hermione, you know, probably got outstanding on everything.
Except in the dark arts. That's like the one thing.
Yeah, except defense against the dark arts. And notice, you know, because she's not taking divination anymore, because she would have failed that. What are the two that Harry failed, by the way? History, magic, and divination. You know, because he passed out, essentially, in history, magic, or had a vision, and then divination, because he doesn't care about it. So they're thinking towards their newts, their nastily exhausting wizarding tests. So we hear, or slash see, McGonagall talking with Neville. Okay, this is about 173 or so. And she's going down Neville's things. Herbology, fine. Professor Sprout will be delighted to see you back with an outstanding owl. And you qualify for defense against the dark arts, which exceeds expectations, which is kind of interesting. Promised Transfiguration. Sorry, Longbottom. Nope, you're not going to get into Newt level with that. Hangs his head down. Why do you want to continue with Transfiguration? I've never had the impression you particularly enjoyed it. My grandmother once. Humph! McGonagall snorts. It's high time your grandmother learned to be proud of the grandson she's got, rather than the one she thinks she ought to have. Pause. Why pause? emphasis, dramatic effect. She wants this next clause to really sink into Neville's mind, particularly after what happened at the ministry. That's McGonagall's way of doing what? Way to go, Neville. Neville turned very pink. Why? Is he ashamed?
Embarrassed.
Why would you be embarrassed at that?
He's not used to praise.
He's not used to that kind of praise from McGonagall. And blinked confusedly. Professor McGonagall had never paid him a compliment before. I'm sorry, Longbottom, I cannot let you into my Newt class. I see that you have an exceeds expectations in charms. Why not try for a Newton Charms? My grandmother thinks charms is a soft option. And yet, who have we seen that is extremely capable at charms? The one he only ever feared. Dumbledore. Right? He goes into the death room in the Ministry of Magic, and he does the thing with his wand, and it's like a lasso, and they're all just kind of like, whoa. And then, the battle with Voldemort, which is not at all like in the film. Idiots. McGonagall, take charms. And I shall drop Augusta a line reminding her, notice that. Augusta. What's that tell us? First name basis. In other words, I'll be in touch with Augusta. Don't you worry about this. Reminding her that just because she failed her charms, owl, okay, she has just violated what in the United States is called FERPA. Federal Education Rights Protection Act or something like that. Okay? Your parent calls me and says, I don't like the grade you gave Mike on his exam. You know what my response would be? Can't talk to you about it. Unless I have a form signed by Mike that says you can talk about this with my parents, none of your business. Period. That's it. They can call the president. Can't talk to you about it. Okay? Apparently the wizarding world's different. Because McGonagall just told Neville what? You did better in charms than your grandmother. Here, go stick that in her face. Just because she failed her charms, owl, the subject is not necessarily worthless. Neville's face. Smiling slightly at the look of delighted incredulity on Neville's face. In other words, McGonagall's, yes, that sunk in. That gives him what? Yes. He fears his grandmother. Now he's kind of like, whoa, I know more than Grandma does. She taps a blank timetable with the tip of her wand. It's now all full and hands it to him. Okay? Next, Parvati, etc. Harry comes up. So, Potter. Charms, defense against the dark arts, herbology, transfiguration, all fine. I was pleased with your transfiguration, Mark Potter. Let's see, why not potions? He says, you told me I had to get an outstanding in my owl. Well, you did when Snape was teaching. Slughorn, however, is okay with exceeds expectations. You want to proceed? Yes. But I didn't buy the books. There's extras, don't worry. Okay, so notice what Snape expects for students in order to go on when he was teaching potions. Only the best. Okay? Exceeds expectations would be what in our grading system? B? Yeah. Outstanding, cream of the crop. Only the very best. Who needs potions? Future Aurors need potions. They also need charms. They also need transfiguration. All the things Neville wants to. Okay? So, let's go on a little bit. Page 176, 77. They go off to defense against the dark arts. A class they normally look forward to. Okay, admittedly, after their first day in the previous year. They no longer looked forward to it. But when Harry was teaching it, they did. Notice also, by the way, why so many people did pass their defense against the dark arts exams. It's because of Harry's teaching. So, Snape addresses them. First day. You have had 5 teachers in this subject so far. As if that's a surprise. Well, every student for the last 15 years, going through all 7 years at Hogwarts, they would have what? A different teacher every year. Harry thinks you believe, like you haven't watched them all come and go, Snape, hoping you'd be next. Should he hope he'll be next? Yeah, why not? What have we been told? The position is jinxed. Okay? Naturally, these teachers will all have had their own methods and priorities, right? What methods and priorities did Quirrell have? We don't really know. Okay? Lockhart? Himself, yeah. To paint a good picture of himself. Lupin? To actually teach. And did a pretty good job. Mad-Eye Moody? The crazy one. The not Mad-Eye Moody. Mad-Eye Moody. He actually did a good job. Okay? Why? Okay, because he was the dark arts. Good way of putting it. Why else? He's got to make Dumbledore think he's really Mad-Eye Moody. Okay? Umbridge? Complete total failure. Magical theory, yeah. Given this confusion, why? Because you haven't had the same mentality, the same objectives, one year after another. I'm surprised so many of you scraped an owl in this subject. And I kind of imagine they all look at Harry. Does Snape know about Dumbledore's army? Yeah, of course he does. Okay. I shall be even more surprised if all of you manage to keep up with the Newt work. So, he talks about the dark arts. The dark arts are many, varied, ever-changing, and eternal. Why are they eternal?
There will always be evil.
Why will there always be evil? What is evil?
Absence of good.
It's not the opposite of good. It's the negation of good. Or the absence of good. In other words, in order for there to be evil, there has to be good first. Evil, classical philosophers, both Christian and non-Christian, say evil is a parasite. It's like a tick. It can only exist on something else. Okay? So, fighting them is like fighting a many-headed monster, which each time a neck is severed, sprouts a head even fiercer and cleverer than before. What's he? The Hydra. Okay? You are fighting that which is unfixed, mutating, indestructible. If it's indestructible and it's mutating and it's unfixed, how do you fight it? I mean, isn't his point, you are fighting a losing battle? If it can never be eradicated, then one must always be what? Think back, Lord of the Rings. Gandalf says, we have defeated a evil, or an evil. We have defeated a finger of evil, but not evil itself. Why? Because even the shadow will grow again. Okay? Dumbledore tells Harry, it's possible you've defeated Voldemort, but then what? That doesn't mean there's going to be suddenly a golden age of nirvana where everybody's going to be at peace and love each other.
Before Voldemort was Grindelwald.
And before Grindelwald, Slytherin, long time before, but between Slytherin and Grindelwald, there were other dark wizards. Right? So, Snape says, your defenses must therefore be as flexible and inventive as the arts you seek to undo. And he shows them pictures and says, here's what, various curses look like. Parvati, because he references an Inferius. Has an Inferius been seen then? The Dark Lord has used Inferi in the past, which means you would be well advised to assume he might use them again. What are Inferi in our language? Zombies. Okay? So he starts teaching them about nonverbal spells. Ron doesn't do a very good job. Okay? Harry doesn't do a very good job. Snape says, "Don't you remember me telling you we're practicing nonverbal spells?" Yes. Yes, sir. There's no need to call me sir, Professor. Wham! Detention, Saturday night, my office. Harry's thinking, can't be any worse than this. Ron, brilliant, Harry. Yeah, I know you got detention, but still. Yeah, but Ron doesn't have to face detention with Snape. Okay? Harry, he tried to jinx me. In case you didn't notice. I've had enough of that during occlumency and such. Hermione, he sounded a bit like you, Harry. What? When you were telling us what it's like to face Voldemort, you said it wasn't just memorizing a bunch of spells. You said it was just you and your brains and your guts. Wasn't that what Snape was saying? It really comes down to being brave and quick thinking. What has Hermione just realized? Snape and Harry are what?
Similar.
Two sides of the same coin. Okay? So, Harry gets a message from Dumbledore about his first lesson, Saturday, and he's thinking, yes. Why? Gets out of detention. Okay? Slughorn's class, they learn about polyjuice, Snape, Harry, Ron, and Hermione. You're like, yeah, no problem. I'm going to skip a bunch. And Harry finds the back of his potions book that he just pulls off the shelf. This book is the property of the HalfBlood Prince. Are there princes in the wizarding world? No. Supposedly there's no aristocracy. Is that true? On a literal level, yes. On a figurative level, no. Because who is in the aristocracy in the wizarding world? Purebloods. Okay? So, chapter 10, the House of Gaunt. Harry goes off to Dumbledore, and a little bit of, small talk. Dumbledore, I hope you've had an enjoyable first week back at school. A couple pages in, 196 or 197. Harry, yeah. Detention already? Yes. He goes, don't worry, taking care of it. So, Dumbledore goes on. It's time now that you know what prompted Lord Voldemort to try and kill you 15 years ago. To give you certain information. Harry, you said at the end of last term you were going to tell me everything. Notice Harry's his hackles are up a little bit. He's like, okay, what are you holding back? It was hard to keep a note of accusation from his voice. Dumbledore, so I did. Told you everything I know. From here on, what's he going to be telling him? His guesses, his guesstimates. We shall be leaving the firm foundation of fact and journeying together through the murky marshes of memory. Notice the nice alliteration, because Dumbledore wants to kind of paint a poetic picture. Notice the nice alliteration. From here in on, Harry, I may be as woefully wrong as Humphrey Belcher, who believed the time was right for a cheese cauldron. But you think you're right. Naturally I do. Who has ideas that acts on them knowing or believing that they are wrong? Nobody does. That's stupid. Okay? You do something because you think you're in the right about it. But he says, being rather cleverer than most men, my mistakes tend to be correspondingly huger. What does he mean by that?
When I mess up, it's bad.
Yeah. Okay. Shakespeare says, I can't remember which play, something about Hamlet. Madness in great ones must not go unwatched. Why? Because of the very fact that they are great. Their madness can lead to even greater dangers. 20th century examples. November 7th, 2 days ago, is the 100th anniversary of communism. Communism in practice, let's say. The Russian Revolution. I mean, you got to go all the way back to 1846 to the real anniversary when Marx and Engels write the Communist Manifesto. So what's the repercussions of that 100th anniversary? Well, in the 20th century, over 100 million dead. 100 million. Not even only in the Soviet Union, but mostly in the Soviet Union. China, it's estimated China had probably 20 million dead under Chairman Mao. Cuba, North Korea, Cambodia. I mean, Pol Pot in Cambodia, in the 4 years that he was in power, over 2 million dead. Okay? Great danger from great ones. All right? So, somebody has a lot of rhetorical savvy. Thank God Trump doesn't, right? Okay? Because you can barely string 2 words together into a sentence. And I'm not slamming Trump. Think of the opposite. What was one of the great things, apparently, somebody thought, about Obama? Man, that guy could give a speech. Such a mellifluous voice and everything. All turned out to be empty rhetoric, but there you go. So Dumbledore says, my ideas, if I'm wrong, can lead to what? Great danger. But if I'm right, so, Harry, does this have anything to do with the prophecy? What does that show us?
Harry's not calling.
Harry's thinking of himself. He's thinking still. He's got kind of echoing in the back of his mind from the end of last term. It's me or him. One of us has got to kill the other. Dumbledore. Got a very great deal to do with the prophecy. I'm going to move more quickly. Okay? So he puts the pensive in front of Harry and says, you look worried, Harry. I got in trouble. Don't worry, this time you're going in, you're allowed. So what are they going to do? They're going to take a trip down memory lane, he says, of Bob Ogden. Not a name Harry's familiar with. Okay? Where do they go? Little Hangleton. And they go to the House of Gaunt. And we see Morphin talk with Bob Ogden. And Harry understands Morphin perfectly. Dumbledore says, you understand him, I'm sure? Harry, yeah, why? Speaking parcel tongue. Can Dumbledore understand him? Does Dumbledore know parcel tongue? No. So, they go on, and we see Bob Ogden attacked and such. We meet Marape and Marvolo. All right. I'm going to skip a bunch. And jump up to 211. So Harry sees all of this memory. And then Dumbledore says, that's enough. And they pop back out of the pensive. Harry, what happened to the girl in the cottage? Notice what he immediately thinks of. What? Louder.
Saving someone.
Why?
That's kind of his thing.
Okay, it's kind of his thing. What does he see about the girl in the cottage? Louder. She's abused. Okay. Harry's thinking, was she able to get away from there? Maripe, or whatever her name was. Oh, she survived. Dumbledore mentions Marvolo. Harry, Marvolo? That's right. Good job, Harry. Glad to see you're keeping up. That old man was Voldemort's grandfather. Yep. So Maripe was... He's starting to put the puzzle pieces together. A little bit slowly, but, he'll get there eventually. That was Voldemort's mother? Yep. Also saw a glimpse of Voldemort's father. The Muggle Morphin attack. The man on the horse. Very good, Harry. They ended up married. That is, her and him. I think you're forgetting Maripe was a witch. Well, what did they discuss in potions? Other than polyjuice? Love potion. I do not believe her magical powers appeared to their best advantage when she was being terrorized by her father. Once Marvolo and Morphin were safely in Azkaban, once she was alone, free for the first time in her life, she was able to give full rein to her abilities, to plot her escape. Can you not think of nice little Socratic teaching method? Notice what Harry assumes first. She put him under an Imperious curse. Or a love potion. They could both have the same effect, right? Imperio, you love me. And you love the other person. Right? What's the difference between the Imperious curse and a love potion? You got to keep giving the love potion with the Imperious curse, as we saw with Barty Crouch Jr., Barty Crouch Sr. You also do have to keep doing the Imperious curse because you can throw that off. Probably not as often as you have to keep giving the love potion. Dumbledore says, yeah, I think it was a love potion. All right. They keep talking. Harry, so she died, didn't she? Wasn't Voldemort brought up in an orphanage? Yes. Notice, got to do a little bit of guessing here, Harry. In other words, the puzzle, we don't have all the pieces, but we can maybe fashion some. Within a few months of their runaway marriage, Tom Riddle appeared at the manor house in Little Angleton without his wife. Rumor flew that he was talking of being hoodwinked and taken in. Harry, but she did have his baby. Yeah, but not until a year after they were married. Tom Riddle left her while she was still pregnant. Is there any importance to this little detail? It's exactly what happened to J.K. Rowling. She went off to teach in Portugal, teach/work for Amnesty International. In Portugal, she met a Portuguese journalist, think Antonio Banderas. I mean, just beautiful. Whirlwind romance, they get married, she gets pregnant, and he leaves her within a year. So she's pregnant and divorced. Goes back to Scotland and is a quote-unquote, what's the derogatory term? Unwed mother. Just derogatory there as it is here. Okay? I think J.K. Rowling is bringing that personal biography into here. And notice what she's doing. Her ex is like the father of Satan. Wow. I mean, talk about low blow. Okay? Could be entirely wrong there, but I don't think so. Because the biography just matches it way too clearly. Of course, that puts, if you take that too far, every analogy fails at some point. If you take the analogy too far, what does that mean J.K. Rowling is? Witch? I mean, did she ensnare him in some way? That's where the analogy breaks down. So, Dumbledore says, love potion probably stopped working. Why? She made the choice to stop giving him the potion. Why? She had perhaps besotted as she was. She is head over heels in love with him. She had convinced herself that he would by now have fallen in love with her in return. Perhaps she thought he would stay for the baby's sake. If so, she was wrong on both counts. He left her, never saw her again, never troubled to wonder, to discover what became of his son. She chose what, in other words? She chose love, not magic. She could have stayed married to him through magic. That is, through silly wand-waving potions, magic. She chose what instead? Real love. Because of her real love for him, she assumed it would be reciprocated. It's not. That's enough for tonight. Harry goes, okay. And this is important, right? All this information about Voldemort's past. I need this. Very important. And it's got something to do with the prophecy. What does Harry mean? And it'll help me kill him. Right? Like you're going to give me, a chink in his armor. There's a spot in his body that's all soft and oozy. And all I got to do is... Yep. Can I tell Ron and Hermione everything you've told me? Yeah, I think so. They've proved themselves trustworthy, but not anybody else. And then Harry notices there's a ring sitting on one of the little tables. He'd seen this ring before. Where/when? We didn't talk about it. Dumbledore's hand when? When Harry came to pick up Harry. What's the difference between the ring then and the ring now? The ring's cracked. He also saw it in the pensive. Okay? You were wearing it when we visited Professor Slughorn, so I was. It's the same ring Marvolo Gaunt showed Ogden. Have you always had it? I acquired it very recently. A few days before I came to fetch you from your aunt and uncle's, in fact. But that's about the same time you injured your hand, right? Yeah, about that time. How exactly? Good night, Harry. Now, going back for a moment, what did Snape tell Bellatrix and Narcissa about Dumbledore's hand? Because he said he has suffered a grievous wound from what? Snape lies. From the battle with Voldemort. Okay? And so his reactions aren't quite as fast as they were before. Which hand is it? It's his wand hand. Why in the world does Dumbledore put Voldemort's ring on his good hand? Why not put it on the hand you don't do the wand work with? Or might Dumbledore be ambidextrous? Doesn't really matter which hand. Okay? He's not, by the way. He is, I believe, right-handed. So, chapter 11, Hermione's helping hand. Go up to, 221, maybe 222. They notice, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, notice that Dumbledore is sometimes absent. That is, he's not downstairs at the evening feast. Okay? In a boarding school like this, in a typical English boarding school, the headmaster eats all the meals with the students. Not literally at their tables because they're swine. He sits at a, or she, sits at a high table. Okay? Take my course in London next summer because we always go to Christ Church College in Oxford, which is where they filmed the interior Christ Church Hall for the Great Hall. And then they do all the magical, special effects and stuff. And you'll see there, when you go to the Christ Church Hall, 3 long tables, several tables put together, 100 feet long. I mean, it's huge. And then at the end of that are like 2 or 3 tables going this direction, horizontal to them. and they're up on a dais. That is, those tables are not quite on a raised platform this high, but maybe 6 to 10 inches lower than that. Okay? So you have the teachers all sit up there and eat while the students are all down here, just like you see in the films. And they notice several meals, Dumbledore's not there. And Ron says, again, somewhere around 220, 221 or so, in response to Hermione, because Hermione says people are terrified. The Patil twins' parents want them to go home. Eloise Midgen has already been withdrawn. Ron, what? Hogwarts is safer than their homes. Bound to be. I mean, we've got oars and all those extra protective spells, and we've got Dumbledore. And they saw Dumbledore in action. Hermione, I don't think we've got him all the time. She glances up. Haven't you noticed his seat's been empty as often as Hagrid's this past week? Harry and Ron look up at the table. He had not seen Harry, Dumbledore, since their private lesson a week ago. Hermione, I think he's left the school to do something with the order. I mean, it's all looking serious, isn't it? Harry doesn't know yet why Dumbledore is leaving. He will come to find out, right? Fairly soon. So what is Hermione's helping hand? And who is it to? She confunds McLaggen. And go up to around 235 or so. They're talking about the Slug Club and such. And reading the Daily Prophet, we find out there's been a search of the Malfoys, led by Arthur Weasley, okay, who's now working for the Office for the Detection and Confiscation of Counterfeit Defensive Spells and Protective Objects. And Harry says, I told Mr. Weasley about the thing Malfoy is trying to fix, because maybe he tried to bring it into Hogwarts with him. Hermione, how can he have done? I mean, we were all searched when we came into Hogwarts. Harry, were you? I wasn't. Oh, no, of course you weren't. Forgot you were late. Well, Fitch ran all over us with secrecy sensors. Metal detectors, essentially. Why wasn't Harry? And I don't mean because Malfoy stamped on his face and he was late. Why wasn't Harry? Why does she not have Harry go through this detection? No? Because of something we find out in book 7. It would go off. It would be a glaring, He's a Horcrux. There's a dark thing in him. Okay? That's why he can't have Snape go over him. Silver and opals. Harry starts using handwritten spells in his potions book. Let's see here. On 238, he starts attempting some of the prince's self-invented spells. Notice where he's using these. Does he go up to the room of requirement and ask a willing victim? No. There's Crabbe walking down the hallway. Bam! Harry zaps him with a hex that causes toenails to grow alarmingly fast. In other words, who's he becoming like? His father. Okay? And yet in the last book, what did he come to understand about his father? He's a jerk. Okay? Or could be a jerk. What else? He starts using it in his bedroom, in the dormitory room. Next page, he does Libera Corpus on Ron. he does the levicorpus, and then libera corpus, the one to release them. Free the body, liber, okay? So he and Ron talk about it. Hermione, notice, is not happy. Why? These are not ministry-approved spells. Who does it seem like Hermione could become if she's not careful? Umbridge? I know, it's pretty low, but, you know. So Hermione's like, you know, you don't know anything about this Half-Blood Prince. You don't know who he is. And Harry says, around 241 or so, when Hermione says, I bet it's just a stupid nickname. It doesn't seem as though he is a very nice person. Where do you get that from? I mean, if he'd been a budding Death Eater, he wouldn't have been boasting about being half-blood, would he? It's a good, logical question. The only problem is, turns out to be entirely wrong. He is boasting about being half-blood. Which half? The pure. Okay? So, they go into Hogsmeade and into Honeydukes. And I think, no, I take that back. I won't say it. And what happens in Honeydukes? That's the reason for the title. Silver and opals. Okay? They're drinking, having fun, you know, butterbeer and stuff. Harry runs into Tonks, and Hermione notices Ron's eyes wandering. Wandering where? Madame Rosmerta, who, by the way, Rosmerta is the name of a Celtic goddess. Anybody know what she's goddess of? Nope. Hospitality. Barmaids, essentially. And here we have Madame Rosmerta, who is apparently quite, you know, stunning looking. Because wherever she goes, Ron's eyes are following her. And Hermione's a little jealous, maybe. As we see when she says, I expect nothings, when she asks Ron what he's staring at, he says, oh, nothing. I expect nothings in the back getting more fire whiskey, says Hermione. Okay? Harry's thoughts, meanwhile, stray to Ginny. And when they leave Honeydukes, there comes Katie, and what happens to her? She gets cursed from the necklace. Okay? Who does Harry think did it? Who does Harry think does everything in the course of the novel? Malfoy. He's right? Okay. So, the secret riddle, chapter 13. We don't have a whole lot of time. Harry goes off again with Dumbledore. They talk about Mundungus Fletcher stealing Harry's stuff. Because bear in mind, everything at number 12 Grimmauld Place now belongs to Harry. Okay? So they have their next lesson, and Dumbledore says, around 260 or so, you'll remember that we left the tale of Lord Voldemort's beginnings at the point where the handsome muggle Tom Riddle had abandoned his witch wife Maripe. Okay? And she was left alone in London. Well, how do you know she was in London? Caractacus Burke, Dumbledore says. And so he swills the contents of the pensieve. And we see an old ghost come up. And the ghost is talking about the locket of Slytherin. And Harry's like, he only gave her 10 galleons? What a cheap SOB. Caractacus Burke was not famed for his generosity, so we know that near the end of her pregnancy, Maripe was alone in London, desperate need of gold, desperate enough to sell her one and only valuable possession, Harry. But she could do magic. She could have got food and everything for herself by magic, couldn't she? Dumbledore. Perhaps she could. What will Harry learn in the next book? You can't make food out of nothing. Who teaches him that? Hermione. Is it really Harry she's teaching? No, it's Ron. Okay? So notice what Harry thinks about magic. It can do anything. What did Hagrid say, first book, about why there's a ministry of magic? To keep wizards and witches secret from muggles. Why? Because muggles will be wanting magical solutions to all of their problems. But it can't solve all problems. Dumbledore. Maybe she could. I'm guessing. It's also possible, he says, that her unrequited love and the attendant despair sapped her of her powers. Ooh, that's a twist. Unrequited love and despair can do what? Turn a witch or a wizard essentially into a squib. In any case, Mirape refused to raise her wand even to save her own life. She wouldn't even stay alive for her son? Dumbledore's kind of surprised. His eyebrows go up. Could you possibly be feeling sorry for Lord Voldemort? No, says Harry quickly. Why does he say it quickly? Sorry to wake you up there, son. Why does he say it so quickly? Of course I don't feel sorry for Lord Voldemort. Pity for him? You could channel Frodo here. He is only an enemy, and he deserves death. No, but she had a choice, didn't she? Not like my mother. No, Harry, your mother had a choice. She could have said, sure, take Harry. Let me live. She and James could have left Harry on the doorstep. For LV. Merry Christmas, you know. Gone off and made another Harry. Your mother had a choice too, said Dumbledore. Yes, Mirape Riddle chose death in spite of a son who needed her, but don't judge her too harshly, Harry. She was greatly weakened by long suffering, and she never had your mother's courage. Well, what else did she not have? She didn't have somebody standing beside her, supporting her, like Lily did. So, where are we going? Harry asks. And they go to the orphanage. And we meet Mrs. Cole, wonderful name by J.K. Rowling, very Dickens-esque, because how does Mrs. Cole come across? Notice, what's another spelling for Cole? How does she come across? Cold and hard. Is this a loving woman? What do they immediately notice about her? A whiff of the bottle. Okay? So, we see Dumbledore's little interview with young Tom Riddle. And what does young Tom Riddle try to do to Dumbledore? Tell me the truth. But he doesn't have a wand. And yet, what does Dumbledore perceive about him and Harry in the memory? The force is strong with this one, you know. There's something about him. He's already practicing magic on his, what do you want to call them? Orphanage mates, classmates, colleagues. They're not really colleagues and such. But what does Dumbledore require Tom Riddle to do before he can go to Hogwarts for the first time? Give back everything he's stolen and apologize. See, the first part's relatively easy. It's the second part that makes it hard. But Tom Riddle also says, when he asks Dumbledore, was my father a wizard? I know he's called Tom Riddle. Dumbledore, don't know. My mother can't have been magic, or she wouldn't have died. At 11 years old, he thinks, once he's told he's magical, If you have magic, you can do what? Stop death. Cheat death. Never die. Is he already thinking, because now he knows he's magical, I'm going to find a way to not die? So, they come back out of the pensive. Harry, wow, he believed it a lot faster than I did. It took a while for it to sink in with me that I was a wizard. Dumbledore, yes, Riddle was perfectly ready to believe he was, to use his word, special. Okay? Harry, and he was a Parselmouth. Already. Yes, indeed, a rarer ability. One supposedly connected with the dark arts. Notice Dumbledore, supposedly. Although, as we know, there are Parselmouths among the great and good, too. We do? Is it only Harry? Slytherin wasn't evil to begin with, but he did become evil. Okay, so it's kind of hard to classify him as good. Who? You mean within these? I don't think that's ever mentioned. Okay, it might be in Pottermore. But I don't think it's mentioned here. Okay?
I don't Merlin's mentioned much in the books.
Yeah, no, I mean, you have the Order of Merlin, and that's the only mention that I'm aware of it, really.
It's not a chocolate frog card in the first book.
For Merlin?
Yeah. It's when Harry's like ripping open all of them, like
Okay.
Ron's kind of like, yeah, that card kind of sucks.
Maybe there's something there. I'll have to go back and check that. Okay? So, Dumbledore starts asking Harry questions. In other words, have you noticed? Have you noticed? You notice his reaction when I called him Tom. Doesn't like that. Why? What's the phrase? Well, it used to be, 40 years ago when I was in grade school, every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Common, ordinary name. Okay? What else? Friends? No, he doesn't have it. Dumbledore says, you will hear many of his Death Eaters claiming they are in his confidence. Who have we seen do that in this book? Bellatrix. In fact, Bellatrix has gone even one step farther. What does she think is her relationship with Voldemort? Okay. It's kind of bordering on, in Bellatrix's mind, what? On the romantic. Yeah, maybe. Okay. In her mind, at least. They believe that they are close to him, even understand him. They are deluded. Lord Voldemort has never had a friend, nor do I believe has he ever wanted one. All right? Felix Felicis. Going to go through it real quick. What is that? Good luck charm. Potion. Okay? Who is given it, supposedly? Okay? Ron, Harry wins it from Slughorn. Who thinks Harry gives it to Ron? But Harry doesn't, does he? What's Harry using?
Placebo effect.
Placebo effect, power of positive thinking. Ron thinks he has it, and therefore he does better than Ron normally would. Okay, we'll stop there. We'll pick up with the unbreakable vow. Didn't get quite as far as I wanted to. I want to try and finish this on Tuesday, and that'll give us 5 days for Deathly Hallows. But if we don't, we don't. We'll be okay. No, we probably won't have a quiz. Well, I don't want to end up with too many quizzes. If there's a quiz on Tuesday, it'll just be over like the last half.
Did we have a quiz last Tuesday? Yeah.
I don't know which day it would have been. Did not have one. You mean
Yeah, this week.
just this week?
Yeah. Tuesday.
No, we did not.
Okay, thank you.
Did we? We didn't have a quiz on Tuesday.
Is there any way to